Hi everyone. So I just wanted to pop on here and have a bit of a chat about what to do at mealtimes at the table when your kids muck up. But first, I want to read you guys a book, The Pokey Little Puppy. Now, we were reading this book the other night and it got me thinking. So I just want to read a couple of lines from you. So, the Pokey Little Puppy was very, very naughty. And what happened was, their mother was greatly displeased. So you're the little puppies that will dig holes under fences. No chocolate custard tonight for you. And she made them go straight to bed. So what got me thinking is that even from books that were written quite a long time ago, we use food as a way of rewarding and punishing our kids. So in this book, the Pokey Little Puppy was digging holes under fences and he wasn't allowed his chocolate custard for dessert. Now the reason, I have a cat that just attacked me. The joy of Facebook Lives. So what this got me thinking was, I was reading this book probably the same night that my youngest was mucking up at the dinner table. Now my youngest is a pretty good eater these days, but he's still 3.5, which means he likes to muck around at the dinner table, especially when he's tired or he's not a fan of the meal. He likes to muck around. And it got me thinking about what to do at mealtimes when your kid's mucking up. Now this might be mucking up not because they don't like the food. It might be mucking up because they're tired or because they're 3.5. But what do you do at mealtimes when they are mucking up? Because the thing is, you might have heard the saying before, you know, when they're eating, you praise the good behaviour and ignore the bad behaviour. And we talk about that with mealtimes. So if you've got a kid who's really, really fussy with food and they have something to eat, then you praise that. But if they're refusing to eat the food, then the rule is you ignore that behaviour. So when we talk about that rule, that's to do with eating and food. Now I just want to let you know, I have a cat right here near my iPad, near my phone where my stand is on. So hopefully this cat does not knock it over. So anyway, Facebook Live. So getting back to that. So that holds true when we're talking about food. But what about when your kids are just mucking up because they're kids and they like to muck up, especially when they are toddlers? What do you do about that behaviour? And so getting back to my book, what you need to be careful of is that we don't equate food with punishment. I've talked about before that it's best not to equate food with rewards. You don't say, if you do this, you'll get this, because it's not teaching your kids good habits when it comes to food. It's teaching them that food, you get rewarded or you get comforted with food, and it's not teaching them good long-term eating habits. But the reverse is also true. Like the Pokey Little Puppy here, if he gets punished with food, that's also not teaching them good long-term positive influences about food. So what should you do if your kid is mucking up at the dinner table? And I think what you have to be careful of is that you're still not using food as kind of the thing that, you know, is punishing or rewarding them. Because it's easy to say things like, just sit down and eat your dinner, or if you don't behave then you'll go hungry, or if you do this you won't get dessert. And so it's easy to, again, even when they're mucking up and it's got nothing to do with the food, it's easy to bring food in because we're at the meal times. So getting back to my naughty little Pokey Little Puppy, or my youngest the other day. So he was mucking at the dinner. It wasn't a dinner he didn't like. He just wanted to muck up because he could. So what I generally say is that I don't ignore the bad behaviour, because it's almost saying, well, you can't, you'll get, it's okay at the mealtime to muck up if we're ignoring it, but you can't muck up other times, but at mealtime it's good. So if the behaviour has nothing to do with the meal and the food, then we've also got to acknowledge that. But again, it's being careful of the language you use. So what I generally say to my child is, you need to sit at the table, or you need to stop throwing the food, or you need to stop tapping your fork on your, on the glass, or you need to stop antagonizing your eldest, which he likes to do. And what I then say is, you don't have to eat your dinner, but you have to sit there till we're finished. So instead of saying just sit and eat, or if you don't eat, you won't get dessert, I still tell them that they have to stop the behaviour, but I don't equate it to the food. And I let them know that they don't have to eat it, because if it's because they're mucking up because they don't like the food, that's cool. They don't have to eat it. So I always had that catch cry of, you don't have to eat the food, but I also tell them then to stop the behaviour. And obviously, like, this can escalate. Now, I am not, behavioral psychologist, so I can't even, I'm not here to tell you how to best punish your child. What I'm here to say is don't use food as the way of doing it. Now, if your child's behaviour gets really out of control and you need to escalate it, then you do what you would normally do as a family, long as it's got nothing to do with food. So in our case, we will put him in timeout. Now, for some kids, getting into timeout is exactly what they want to do at mealtime, because they want to get away from the food if they're scared of the food, or they don't want to eat. So I will say to my child, we're going to put you in timeout for 2 minutes, but just remember, when the mealtime is over, there's no more food. And so I'd count that 2 minutes in. So I'll put him in timeout. But that's for the really, really naughty behaviour, like he's smacking his brother or he's done something really bad. Most of the time I try and keep him at the table, but if it gets really bad, I won't ignore that bad behaviour. And I'll do whatever, so we do timeout. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. You can do whatever you want to do as a family. But don't ignore that bad behaviour, but don't avoid bringing it back to food. And then what I'd say to my child is, getting back to the table, and it's like, just letting you know when we've all finished eating, like, so my eldest and myself and my husband, when we're finished eating, then the meal is over, because they've spent all that first time mucking up. And my youngest does like to spend the first bit of the meal mucking up. I think he knows because it annoys us. So what I let them know is that once the rest of us have finished eating, the meal time is over. And again, that's what I do. So then they've got the rest of the time to eat. And then if they haven't eaten, or they've only eaten a tiny bit and all the rest of us have finished meals, then I say that the meal time is over. And if they kick up a fuss, that's okay. They should have not mucked up at the table. And yes, they will probably go hungry. And yes, they haven't had much of a meal, but that's okay, because it's about teaching them good long-term habits. And mucking up at the dinner table is not a good long-term habit. So I'm okay if he doesn't want to eat. And that's what happened the other night, the little monkey. He was mucking up. He started eating about 2 minutes before we'd finished. Now, we'd been there like 40 minutes. This wasn't a 10-minute meal. We'd been there plenty of time. I try and limit meals to 30 or 40 minutes. So we had plenty of time. And I said, you know what? The rest of us are finished. The meal is over. And that is what I said. I said, you shouldn't have mucked up. You shouldn't have been doing whatever he was doing. I think he was poking his brother, antagonizing him. And I said, the meal time is over. And that was the end of that story. I didn't say you have to eat a meal. I didn't let him keep eating as a kind of almost a reward for mucking up. But I didn't use the food. I didn't say just sit down and eat. And I didn't say things like, well, if you don't eat or you stop mucking up, you'll go hungry. I kept it away from food. And that's really one of the most important things about it, is don't use food as a way of rewarding or punishing your child, because it's not teaching them good long-term feeding practices. And that's what I always say to families. A lot of the time what we're teaching them when they're younger is about long-term good eating habits, not short-term good eating habits. So I hope this video was useful. If not, and you really want to know what happens to the pokey little puppy, just letting you know, he gets stealing the dessert and then he gets punished, and he doesn't get dessert at all and the other puppies do. So really not teaching our kids great food habits. So some of these golden books, maybe not reading them to my kids. So I hope this gave you some information. And I realised I just didn't introduce myself. For those who've never met me before, my name's Dr. Jennifer Cohen. I'm the Fussy Eating Doctor, and I provide information for frustrated parents just like yourself around food and eating. So I hope you got something out of this. Let me know what you do at meal times when your kid is mucking up, because they all do. Feel free to comment below, and also feel free to share this video for anyone you think this would help. So have a good day, and like always, also comment if you want me to chat about any other topics of interest to you around food and kids. So have a good day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.